Hey, my name is Lora Chatman, and today I have a very special guest with me. She is a thought leader in many areas, and our discussion, I don't even want to fully give it away, but I just want to leave you with this first thought. My business is called Legendary Focus, and I feel like in order for us to be able to move forward as a human race, we need to be able to channel our focus in areas that are going to be helpful for us. That is the only way we can create legendary results on purpose. We do not have to die to have change happen. We can make change happen right now, but it is going to take intentionality and paying attention to what we feed our mind, what we feed our body, what we are putting out into the world, and what we are taking in. So just on that note, Deborah, if you'd like to introduce yourself, just give a quick little intro for
Yeah,
you, tell the
sure,
people who
sure.
you are, what you do, and we can just go ahead and dive right into this conversation.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Laura. I am Deborah A. That is correct. It's not a typo. I am a holistic leadership mentor. And so everything to do with leadership development, I work on, but I work on it from a different lens in the sense that I'm really focused on supporting leaders who know we're in a period of transition, who know we're not going back to the way things were when our parents were doing business. And specifically, my focus is on psychological safety, not necessarily because it in and of itself is the most important thing, but it's the most important to me indicator that your company or your team or your family has their priorities straight. Because when their story that you're operating from makes is truly aligned with how life is going, there will be psychological safety. People will, and let me just define that really quickly. It's a space or an environment where people feel it's okay to be honest, to share their real thoughts and opinions, concerns, when they make mistakes, when they have questions, when they can do that and speak that freely, that is a psychologically safe environment. So that's what I really help leaders to create for themselves and for the people with whom they work.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And let's just go ahead and dive right into it. We just recently had Juneteenth, and now we are in the midst of Independence Day. And with both of these holidays so close to each other, the thought of freedom is in full force. However, I feel personally that there is a there's a deception going on.
Yeah.
We are told that we are free, and yet sometimes we don't act like it. Because when I think of freedom, I think of the ability to freely express yourself. I think of the ability to freely move around to eat without the fear of being poisoned. I think of the freedom to seek out help and know that that help is not going to, at the same time, harm you, in the sense of you go to a doctor to get something fixed and then they give you something that gives you something else. Now you have multiple issues. You go to the grocery store, you buy food, and you find out that the majority of the ingredients that are inside of it, when you actually look at the label, are also found in cleaning products or pharmaceuticals. Once again,
That's if
causing
they
side
make the label.
effects.
That's if
E-
they make the label, because a lot of stuff isn't even on the label. Sorry, I
Exactly.
just had to throw that in there. Go ahead.
And that's the other thing. We trust that things will be labeled, and they're not always labeled. And that's a problem. I don't think that we are free if we cannot freely operate without the fear of being poisoned. Or you can driving down the street, you can do absolutely nothing wrong, and yet someone tries to pull you over. And like, that's not being free. I think that that needs to change. And I do see that there has been a progression, absolutely. However, I feel like it is not as fast as it could be because we have a lot of people who are either A, turning a blind eye because they think, oh, well, things are better than they were before. You're not walking around in chains, and you got houses, and so-called vote, even though that's a whole nother situation, not just talking about us, but in general,
Ooh.
do votes actually matter, or is it a situation where things are already predetermined, which if you look at all of the presidents in the past, there is a link. But it's just this illusion. I feel like we're under this great illusion, and it's time for us to wake up. What do you feel about that, Deborah?
100%, 100%. You mentioned votes, and I just about some recent news about how we have people who've been proven to have zero moral capacity to lead themselves being entrusted with leading a nation. The whole system is rigged, right? So um, I 100% agree with everything that you said. I'll stop there and let you continue to guide me here.
Look, I am okay with going all the way because this is my platform, and I feel like we've been tiptoeing around things for too long.
Mhm,
For instance, I personally, I went I went vegan because I had some health issues and some GI stuff that was going on. The medicine that I was given actually made me feel suicidal. And I am, if people know me personally, they know I'm one of the most optimistic people out there. So I knew that it had to be what I was taking. And, sure
yeah.
enough, it was one of the side effects on the label. It gave me really bad migraines. I told my doctor this, and she's like, oh, well, we can put you on some antidepressants and we can give you some Botox for the migraines. I mean, your skin's great. I know you don't need that, but it does wonders for migraines. And I was like, can't we just, like do something other than this medication? And she's like, oh, well, I mean, if you don't want this one, then we have some other ones that are in the same family and we can try those out. And I was like, well, I was doing some research and I saw that some people were actually able to reverse this by changing their diet and lifestyle. And she laughed. It was one of those, I don't think she meant to, but like her first literal reaction was to laugh at me for asking that. And that just put a bad taste in my mouth. I literally I stormed out of there. I pretended like I was going to make another appointment. I never did with her, never went back to her. I was like, no way that a doctor is going to tell me that what I eat does not help or harm my stomach, especially when I'm having the issues when I eat certain things. And I believe in fate, and I don't think anything is coincidental. I think that it is intentional. And so I had put the intention out there as soon as I was leaving. It was so strong. I was like, I'm going to find me a grocery store and I'm going to get some holistic food. And I typed in holistic grocery store. Literally across the street, there was one. And I go in there and this woman, she hands me a book. As soon as I walk in, they're giving away free books today. And it was about someone who had cured themselves from the disease that I had using food. And so I just say that to say, we have resources around us.
Yes.
But if I had stopped at that doctor and said, you know what, yeah, let me just try one of these other medicines, then I would have never known that I could have changed my life just by changing up what I ate. And ever since I went vegan, like not only did I stop having a lot of the issues, I got energy back, but I also had more clarity.
Hmm.
And I thought that that was very interesting. I'm not saying that, like, I'm not here to tell people what they can or cannot eat. I'm just saying for me, when I stopped eating meat, I got more clear-minded and I started to notice the divinity in all things. That this was back in 2018 that I stopped. And now it's like I realize how prevalent it is for us to, as a society, to disregard life. And
Yeah.
if you disregard animal life, then
Yeah.
it's a lot easier for you to disregard human life.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel like there is a link to the two.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to talk about it because, in Western society, it's normal to have every single meal have pounds and pounds of meat in it. You got to have your steak and eggs for breakfast and, your hot dogs, which God knows what's in a hot dog. Like, once again, people don't read. And I don't even know how some of this is legal to put into food to feed to people, but they wonder why they're getting heart disease and having heart attacks and getting cancers when it's literally on the labels that, bacon is a carcinogenic. It is known to cause cancer. Sausages are known to cause cancer, and yet we eat these things every day. Alcohol causes more accidents than weed. But which one is legal and which one is served at every restaurant? Like,
Mhm.
the world is backwards, and if we don't look at it, then we're not going to ever want to change it. And like I said, I'm not telling people what they have to do. I'm just saying, open your eyes and look around you. Like, Deborah, have you noticed? Like, I know you had to have noticed this going around because you live in California.
No, actually, I'm in Arizona, but
Oh,
a lot
Arizona.
of similar, yeah, very close neighbors and lots of similarities. And
Yes.
I mean, I really resonate with what you say. You've been talking about food and health, and I look at it also from the standpoint of like mental health. When we look at the way that people, okay, I just want to say this because I'm in leadership development. So, a very common term that you will see in a lot of articles is the term employee retention.
Mm.
If you really think about that phrase, retention, it it's like you're trying to keep someone somewhere that they actually don't want to be. It's like you're trying to hold on to them, right? Look up the word retention versus like someone joyfully choosing to be somewhere. And I say to people all the time, every single day, employees face numerous human rights violations and don't even it's considered the norm.
Mm.
But we have created systems where people feel completely disempowered, unimportant, not undervalued, um, not unique, very homogenized and the same as everyone else because that's how we treat them. That's how we treat businesses. We treat businesses as machines to produce and print money for us instead of the living entities that they are with their own unique purposes and reasons for being in the world and service. So on all levels, it's a wonder that we're even able to function as a society as much as we have been because we're going against the nature of what it means to be a human, to be a human being, not a human doing, not a human thinking, not a human, all these other things that we have. And really what I saw with the whole Juneteenth thing was a way to pacify people, um, independent of race. There are massive, massive issues with people actually not having their rights at all. Like so many issues. And so what I'm really, like you mentioned a few of those rights. For me, you mentioned being able to go to have the freedom to go somewhere and not be poisoned. I thought about the freedom to go somewhere and actually be able to enjoy nature and not have a no trespassing sign everywhere blocking you from just enjoying a view or being able to see a bird or to see a river. You can't do any of those things in a lot of areas in the country that are beautiful but fenced off and portioned off because we're in a society where ownership, whether it's of humans, which is again massive human rights violation, or if it's of land, which is a land rights violation, or if it's of any of the things that we can think of, has created such a problem. So to me, I don't like to just look at the problems, but I also like to look at what are alternatives. And an alternative to the mindset of ownership is the mindset of stewardship,
Mm.
which, if you combine that with what you were saying about seeing the divine nature in all things, whether alive in an organic way or not. For example, sometimes I have a conversation with my computer or my phone. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't want to get charged today. All right, that's all right. We'll try another time when you're in the mood. Sometimes my computer wigs out and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we'll take a break if you need to take a break. I understand that there is some form of consciousness in everything, even if the things that we think are completely 100% inanimate. And with that understanding, how do I treat them?
Mm.
How do I view them? Do I just throw a computer out or throw a phone out because I can afford a new one? Or do I think about how can I use that or gift that or how do I treat things? How do I treat the land?
Mm.
Do I just throw my trash out on the ground because I can and technically no one's going to stop me? Do I let my animals create destructive things around because, technically no one will stop me if no one's looking? Or do I actually care that I'm a steward of my neighborhood, that I'm a steward of where I live, that I'm a steward of the land? It's a completely different mindset. And so this is, when I hear all these different ways that people make money, get rich, get wealthy, and I think about that, it's like it's still from an ownership mindset. It creates problems because no one likes being a slave, but we don't realize all the ways that we A, are slaves still, and B, enslave others. And so whether it's going to a zoo and caging animals, there's many various forms of how we have gotten very used to enslaving others. So it's interesting. It's not to say that, like you mentioned about meat and animals, but there's a big difference between the hunter gatherer who hunts one deer or hunts one buffalo for a very, very long time, shares it amongst the tribe, shares it amongst the family, and it's all used and all eaten and all honored. There's thanksgiving for this one animal sacrificing its life to nourish others, and the mass production of I mean, absolute inhumane and disgusting things that go on in the farming industry, all for the sake of profit. And when I say the industry, I'm not talking about, you know local small farms that are still practicing very loving and humane ways of caring for animals. I'm talking about these mass factory farms that, just do awful things and caging these animals, never even have a chance at life of any form. Which when we consume the consciousness level of that animal.
That
So
part.
these are all different levels. I mean, there's so many, but I think I've just touched on a few key ones that come to mind of how we are still slaves and we're still enslaving others. So there really is no freedom until all of us are free. None of us are. So there's really no reason to get so excited other than the commercialization of these specific dates. Not that there's anything wrong with celebrating. I have nothing against that, but it's like, what am I celebrating? That's
Right.
why I am very intentional and very clear. And again, this isn't about being on a high horse. It's not judging or condemning anyone's practices. I'm speaking for myself and myself alone when I say that I'm very clear on what I celebrate and how, and I don't let anyone dictate to me what that should look like.
Mhm.
Because I just see it as a massive issue that we've all bought into these commercialized ways to keep people pacified throughout the year as they are slaves, as they
Yeah,
work as slaves and live as slaves.
that's so true. And you hit it on the head. Holidays, we have a major one literally every single month. And every single month, we are told, we are conditioned, let's put it this way. We have been conditioned as a society that holiday means to overindulge. The good sides of holidays is, yeah, you get family time, most people are off, so you can have, and which is the other sad part. We look forward to holidays because we have been conditioned to think that our working life is supposed to be our entire life. And so holidays are the only times when we are allowed to be human. We are allowed to see our families. The amount of hours that people work just to be able to have a house or to be able to have food, let alone like organic food, to be able to put their kids in schools, which is a completely different thing because what is taught in schools is not necessarily as liberating as it could be, or it's not across the board as great as it could be. But at the same time, if parents did not have to work as much, then they could teach their own kids. But they almost make it impossible, which is why school usually reflects the work week. Um, then you have the fact that with these holidays, like you said, overly commercialized. You think you have to buy something, whether it's a present, whether it is a feast, a bunch of food, fireworks, which are just us recreating war. Why do we do that? I agree. I love a good fireworks show, but why? It's strange. We have to start asking ourselves, why are we doing the things that we do? What is it symbolizing? What is it? What kind of ritual is it? Because a lot of things are rituals without us even realizing it. And until we learn the deeper meaning of things, we are unconsciously just going along with a program that may have a meaning deeper than we consciously see, but the subconscious knows all. We are connected to all things. And so that's the other part too that you were mentioning about how we treat the animals. Because we are one with all on a consciousness level, even though our souls are in these bodies individually, there is a part of us that expands outside of our bodies. It's kind of why you can feel when someone's behind you and someone's like, oh yeah, you have eyes behind the, in the back of your head. It's not that you have eyes in the back of your head. It's that the field around you, the essence of who you are, cannot be contained in just this human body. This is just the avatar that we pilot. However, our soul that is greater than this expands outward of this as well as up. And I like to think of it like a net, and like say there's source, and then consciousness is divided up into all things. However, we all still are connected to that source. Because we're all connected to that source, we can always be able to link with each other. I feel like that's why people who are more empathetic, they understand this quality more. And I feel like everybody's empathetic to one degree. It's only if you've been conditioned not to be.
Mhm.
And when you start having these holidays, like I said, where you overindulge to the point where, like I don't drink alcohol anymore. I stopped because out of support for a loved one who realized that they were turning to it way too often. And so we both quit. And upon quitting, I realized how interesting it was that so many people turn to alcohol to feel normal or to be able to socialize, because one, they don't know how to be interactive with other people, because part of them has their guard up constantly. They always feel like people are out to get them, or that they're always being judged. So they drink alcohol so they can be able to be social. They can be numb. We're in a society where numb is the new normal. And our feelings are our access to everything. That is what helps us be able to intentionally manifest. That is what helps us be able to connect to one another and to be true to ourselves. If we are not able to express how we feel and think that it's okay, like if you want to cry, cry. Crying is a cathartic release. And yet you're looked at as soft, or, oh, she's just overly emotional. In the workplace, oh, if you have a concern about something and you try to tell someone, oh, you're just being a disgruntled person, like, why, oh, is it that time of the month? Like, the passive aggressiveness that goes on with us trying to be ourselves is ridiculous. The fact that we're pressured into thinking that we have to overindulge in or buy something like around Christmas time. We're halfway there right now. That is one of the most depressing holidays for a lot of people, because so many people go into debt to buy toys or gifts or do extravagant things, thinking that they have to go in above and beyond on this time. Do I think people deserve to be able to have breaks and to do nice things and have family time? Absolutely. But we need to be in a life where we don't have to have the world or the government dictate when we do these things. We need to be able to say, you know what, today I want to go see my family and we're going to have a good meal together. And then you can do it. And until you can do that, be with who you want to be whenever you want to be with them, buy what you want without having to worry about, is this going to make it so I can't pay my rent? Or be able to express yourself without feeling like someone's going to say, oh, you're just being the most, then you are not free. And we have to allow ourselves to say we are not satisfied with just the average, because the average will keep you average. And the bar is so low that if you are average right now, then that would not even be considered humane in some areas to some people, what average is today.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that was deep. So I'm gonna I'm gonna need to wrap up. So I
Yeah.
wanted to just share. Um, if something here resonated with you and you're like, I definitely want to start to peel back the layers, but to do so in a gentle way, because
Yes.
there is such a thing as being a little too harsh with these. It's you know, I'm sure for Laura, I know for myself, it takes time to peel back these layers and start to see, okay, how am I really allowing others to condition me? So, you know, reach out to either one of us. You know, both of us have a similar focus and just very different approaches to that focus of really helping you to connect back to your truth, to who you are, your inner divine essence, and what you're here to do uniquely that no one else can do but you in this point in time in history on this planet. So, yeah, I would love to continue the conversation and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are, if you have any questions or things that came up from listening to this.
Absolutely. And Deborah, I can put some information in the description of this, but do you want to give anyone a way to specifically contact you?
Yes, my primary platform is LinkedIn, but I also am on Facebook and Instagram at the real Deborah A. So the TheReal Deborah Deborah and A, the letter A. So you can reach me on those three platforms. That's a really good way to reach out and send me a message, and we can, or you know, leave a comment and we can continue the conversation.
Absolutely. Same for me. I am also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me by looking for Lora Chatman. That's not Laura Chapman. That's Lora, Lora, Chatman, Chat, as in talkative, Man. Uh, and type that in, you'll find me anywhere. You can also look up legendaryfocus.com. And the fact of the matter is, regardless of what you do with this information, we just want you to ponder it because your thoughts turn into things. Your words have life. How you see yourself matters. And your belief, a belief strong enough, can turn into a fact. So check yourself and see, are your beliefs serving you? Do they enslave you, or are they making you feel free? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Be blessed, stay legendary. Peace.
Thank you.